Hey everyone, we're back for another video series. Our last experiment with Sil 1.1, or I guess our first experiment with Sil 1.1, went south at around 750 feet last series. And so I was thinking about new character types to play for the new video series, and I realized that I don't really have a lot of time right now to be recording and playing. I mean, I find that near the end of the last series I wasn't really paying attention too much, and I was kind of tired. Like when I play this game, I need to sort of be with it. I can't just sort of relax and be brain dead and playing through, especially in the more difficult parts. So I thought, in different communities, different games, people will cast games that they haven't played. And with Sil especially, I've noticed that people play like drastically different styles if you look on the forums, and manage to succeed and do very well, or die horribly, but in entertaining ways. So I thought to ask some people, if they'd be willing to share their games with us. So one of the members who I've mentioned quite a few times, Clouded, who is quite a good player, has taught me a bunch of things, offered to give us some of his game recordings. So he records them using a TTY rack, which if you've played NetHack or any of those things, they often use them to cast their games, often online, so you can log into like a Telnet server somewhere and watch people playing. So it's a little bit primitive in how we'll be able to see it. Like, we won't have multiple windows and all that stuff, but at least we'll be able to follow along with what he's doing. So one of the cool things, he sent me a bunch of games. I thought we would start with this particular character, because he goes with an Edain, which is a human character. So I'm just going to slow things down a little bit here because he kind of guns through the first part. So we've only ever played High Elves and older characters who are kind of like the normal mode of Sil. Then the Sindar and the Nogrim are just like green elves and dwarves, respectively. And they're harder to play than the Noldor for sure. They have lower stats. The Sindar are kind of like weaker, more fragile elves, and the Nogrim are more like stronger but slower. Well, not elves, but characters. I really like playing the dwarves, actually. They're heavy hitters and kind of in the same spirit as the last character we played. And then there's the humans, who are basically made of paper mache. They start with very low strats across the board. You can't really see this here, but it's the way this thing gets rendered. But they start basically with all zeros, except for +1 due to their house. The neat thing here is the +1 is in strength with the House of Hador. The House of Beor, I think, gets +1 to grace. And the House of, or people of Haleth, I guess they lived in the forest, they didn't really have a house. I think they get +1 at Dex. So the really interesting thing about the Edain is, even though they're super fragile, they get some really powerful affinities. So there are like some major basic skills in Sil. Melee is one, evasion is another, and then I guess stealth, maybe not so much, but the House of Beor, I believe, gets an evasion affinity, which is pretty crazy because all the evasion abilities are really good, and it means you get your first one free. The people of Haleth get a stealth affinity, I'm pretty sure. Let's see, can I go back? Stealth affinity, which means that you get a free stealth ability, which, I mean, pretty good. That's not bad. But the +1 dex is very helpful for that class. And then, how do I go forwards? I'll just play. And then, yeah, so basically the House of Hador, I quite haven't figured out this interface here. Sorry. The House of Hador gets a melee affinity, which is badass. So that means they get a melee ability for free. But the other thing that they get is +1 to melee, no matter what weapon they're using, or just +1 to melee in general, even with bare hands. Whereas elves get +1 to melee if they're wielding a sword, and dwarves get +1 to melee if they're wielding an axe. But the Edain get one no matter what, if they're a House of Hador. So it's a pretty cool house to play. I have a gimmick build I like to play with the House of Hador, where I pick 4 strength, 1 dex, 1 con, 1 grace, which is like really hard to keep alive, but it's hilarious. And that's actually the build that inspired the previous build that I used with the Fëanor beefcake build there, where I think it was 4-3-3-3. So I think the way he builds this guy is he, or girl, gives her 3 strength, which means that a lot of the early weapons are balanced around 3 or 4 strength. helps you in the early game. 2 Dex, I mean, that's not too shabby. 3 Constitution. The hardest thing with the Edain is you always want more Constitution all the time. We played a 3 Con character last game, and you saw that you know, we invested a lot of points into Will to get that Constitution point, and it hurt us late. Well, some of my stupid play hurt us later too, but definitely made it difficult to play the early game, or the mid game, I mean. But one of the sort of invisible things that happens with the Edain, you may not notice, is, you know, I remember the first time I built up their stats, I was like, you know, that's not that bad. 3 Strength, 2 Dex, 3 Con, that's not bad. And, you know, 1 Grace, who needs Grace? No big deal. But basically that means that at a certain point, you probably won't have a lot of experience to put into these extra skills like Perception, Will, and stuff. So you're either getting paralyzed constantly, or you're hitting every single trap, and it gets difficult for that reason. So you'll see, like, with only 2 Dexterity, you know, once you dump, well, let's keep going. You get some pretty low starting points for melee and evasion, and so you have to concentrate on them a lot more in the early game, which means that you're hurting in a lot of other areas when you get to the mid game. So he's going to just do a very basic allocation. Like I said, you know, these things are so fragile, these poor humans, that you really need to basically focus on melee and evasion in the early game as much as possible, otherwise you won't be able to hit anything. So our last elf, I think, started around like +11, +10 for these, which, you know, a point here or there makes a big difference. So you'll see here, he's going through the melee abilities, trying to figure out what to do. And I think I watched the beginning of this. So this character house, it's sort of centered around any kind of melee. Like you can really do whatever you want, but they have low dex. So going finesse or something in the early game probably won't get you very far. And you see he chooses power, I think, which to me is surprising. Not many people take this anymore, as far as I can tell, because so many of the there are so many options for builds with light weapons now that it seems kind of good to take finesse. And the tree isn't really built. There aren't really many abilities that piggyback off power. But wow, he finds a Helmet Defiance +3 right away. That's pretty awesome, because that that issue I talked about before, where he only has 1 Grace, that's going to help out a little bit at least with some of the Will attacks that can happen later. And being resistant to fear is really good. But you can see already he's getting kind of whacked around, and finding Orc Soldiers this early is really unlucky. You usually don't find them until 100 feet. And, well, even more. So actually, if this was me, I probably would have given up at this point. And he's pulling quite a bit of experience too, which with the Edain you can't really do. Well, I can't really do, because I'm not all that great at this game. But see, like, even hovering around 8 HP, like 1 crit from a wolf will kill you. So, and there we go. So now he's dumping experience and perception. I'm guessing Clouded likes to go for keen senses early, which I always skip. But every player has their things that drive them crazy. You know, I often get I'm gonna pause. I often get drained by purple molds in the early game, and I just kind of deal with it. But then again, I often die with my Constitution drained. The other thing that drives me crazy are Sloroko. And the good thing about taking keen senses is that it helps you, I think it gives you like a +5 bonus, which is half of the True Sight bonus, to seeing invisible creatures. And again, for this character, if he's not able to invest too much in perception, that's going to help a lot with seeing them. But let's see, I think that's what... And then you'll also notice that he just totally skipped the 50-foot floor. I usually explore the whole thing. But everyone has different styles, and, you know, 50 feet is usually a waste of time. I think there's a monster there. It's a giant bat. You may notice that we can't see the rest of the map. Like, this looks a lot different than our usual experience when I play, like, in my Coco client on OS X. I don't know if this is actually how it renders in his terminal when he plays, or if there's, like, a faded character set that just isn't rendering in this thing, so maybe Clouded can comment. But no big deal. We can see the current action, so that's good enough. And actually, I don't... Is this door broken? I probably would have tried to close that door. Let's see, because being surrounded at this point, like, even though it's just a bat, it still gives you the same evasion penalty as if it was a giant. A cloak is nice. Any evasion in the early game is nice. Oh, Sharp. Wow, these are good finds too. So a Sharpo is a huge help right now. I don't know if he has any arrows. I don't remember. But a +2 cloak is a wicked find at this depth. So once I found some potions, usually I like to kind of hover around the worms to see if they'll poison me on purpose. and then drink the potions I've found to see if any of them are anti-venom. Yeah, that's a good thing about having high strength. If you can't pick the lock, you can just usually break the door down. He's just kind of poking around the level. I can't, again, one of the difficulties of watching it in this terminal is that we don't really know what parts of the map have been explored. We sort of know, but not entirely. So it is kind of a little bit trickier to figure out the strategy. And yeah, see, this is tough. Like, a few bad hits. He's retreating now to gain HP, I think. And you see, this is smart. This is something I never do, and Clouded's clearly a smarter player than me. He decided, you know, I'm getting my ass kicked. I'm going to go back to 50 feet and just chill. And that is something I never do either, so that's actually a really good tactic. If you're trying to save turns in the game, I usually just hit Shift Z, which means rest until you have full HP. But he figured, you know, I'm gonna go down. I'm assuming I'm gonna go down this floor. I'm probably gonna explore a bit before I meet any monsters, and I'll heal maybe 10 points worth of HP. So I'm only gonna rest for like half my HP's worth. It's also dangerous to rest for a long time on top of the stairs, because if monsters pop up, you get pushed off the stairs and then they kill you. So we're back at 100 feet again, kind of a reboot. But let's see what happens here. With this low HP, it's kind of a dangerous proposition to take on any molds, because if you mess up and an orc comes up behind you, he's gonna slaughter you. These centipedes are such a pain if you don't have a heavy weapon, because unless he pulls off a critical, those golden potions are either probably slowness or anti-venom, given how many of them he has already. I'm gonna add a bit more to melee. And I imagine the focus, oh man, that is so bad to meet with only this much protection. He met a bunch of archers. I mean, around 150, that's usually where they come out. But you see, he's really good at this. I learned how to do this from Clouded, so he kind of hovers near the outside and tricks the AI. And this door is still not broken, so he can kind of convince them to shimmy out by resting diagonally from the door. And then, if you can position them correctly, you can close the door and slaughter the one that goes up to the wall. But the danger with wasting turns like this here is that these green worms are replicating, and they'll bust your equipment. And he actually has some good stuff, like the cloak is really good, you wouldn't want it to get burned. But he managed to dodge around them and lock them up. Torch. Spears are great for these early characters, yeah, exactly, because you can throw them, so he's setting it to be able to throw on key 0. Having a high strength character with like this melee bonus, wow, that's awesome. I was just going to say, if you find a lot of spears, it's super helpful. And so now he has 5. Man, these things. Actually, if this was me, I would have switched to the spear two-handed, but now he's got an axe, so it's fine. Because the two-handed spear, I think with this strength would be like 1d15 or something, especially with power. Although he's not going to get any criticals because power reduces the criticals you get. And now he has a longsword, so at least it'll be easier to hit things. Did he throw a spear at one of those bats? Yeah, he did. Or is that a Kerbane? Yeah, it's a Kerbane. Throwing a spear actually doesn't give you any more accuracy than trying to swing at it. It's not like arrows where they get an evasion penalty. So he found a special battle axe, and he's using it as his off weapon because it's a heavy weapon for sure. There's a purple mold. But the problem, see, I have a hard time with this because when you don't have that auxiliary window, like the inventory window, for all I know, his axe is glowing right now, and we can't tell. Oh, he's holding it, so maybe he knows something we don't. But, like, this is badass. You see, with 3 strength and power, a two-handed battle axe gives you 3d10. That's nuts. And he's just splatting these things against the wall. But one thing I didn't mention with that purple mold, I explained why he took Keen Senses, but I didn't really explain what it does. So Keen Senses makes you behave as if you have an extra light radius that you don't, except in terms of seeing monsters. So if you have a light radius of 1, you'll be able to see monsters that are radius 2 away, but there's no light on that square. So if they're covered in darkness and stuff, it won't take away from their darkness score, but you'll be able to see if they're there. So it helps a lot with molds, because if you're about to turn a corner or something, you'll see that they're a square away, even if your light doesn't reach that far. So it's very helpful until you manage to pick up more light. And you'll see he moves very efficiently too when he walks. Like, he takes diagonals whenever he can. It's all sort of an effort to keep that clock low so that when you get to the deeper depths you can spend a bit more time there. So this is going to be the first kind of like oh shit point, because Orc Warriors hit really hard. He only has +7 evasion, which means they're going to hit him. And he doesn't have a lot of HP. So this could get tricky, and that's why you want the big weapon. Even though it has low accuracy, when you hit it counts, and so you can usually kill them in one shot. It's especially important with like sword spiders and stuff. There's one, now that I mention it. If you can steamroll over them quickly, at the very least they'll run away before they can hit you a bunch of times. And this is a neat trick to use. He's kind of messing with the pack AI. Usually the pack AI will force the orcs to kind of hover around the door. But when you have a close elbow like this, you can kind of drag them in and make them bunch up in the pipe and take them on one at a time for a couple of turns at least. So he's having a hard time hitting that spider, but he was kind of lucky too with the hits it got, so. Wait, let's go back, let's see what he has. So he's got his special battle axe. We don't know what it is yet. Oh, he's wearing studded leather, I didn't catch that part. Good cloak. There's a Helmet of Defiance. Ooh, Gauntlets of the Force +3, that would have been handy in our last game. And he does have some arrows, okay, so not bad. And he's figured out that this thing is a Doriath axe. I guess he saw it. He may have seen something we didn't see, or maybe he's even looking to the combat rolls in a different window. I have no idea, but and those spears, you see, they're badass when you're this strong. Just kind of chugging along. Yeah, having that many spears is going to be super helpful for the next few floors. Oh, this is bad. Fighting these hammer horns with an axe is not there. He switched to the longsword. He's being confused as monsters. These things actually hit really hard. They only have 1 damage dice, I think, which means they critical pretty frequently. The way that monsters have their criticals computed is their weapon weight is calculated as like 2 times the number of damage dice they have. So if they have 1 damage die, it's like they have a 2-pound weapon. If they have 2 damage die, it's as if they have a 4-pound weapon. So those hammer horns are like 1d5 or 6 or say, something like that. But they, at low evasion, they get some few criticals on you. And if you're confused and they get a few hits, that's 3d9 a few times, hurts a lot. So, is that a thief or is it Gorgle? Oh, Gorgle. I think you can take him. That shouldn't be that big a deal. Yeah. He's really not that hard. If you can smack him with a big weapon a couple times, he only has 30-something HP. His evasion's pretty bad. He hits reasonably hard, but he's like a orc warrior that's a bit more buff. And you kill, like, scads. Is that 2 brass lanterns? What's happening here? That's a torch. You gotta be shitting me. If that's 2 lanterns in a row, that's amazing. Why is he just pummeling them with arrows? This is hilarious. What are they doing? Why are they just sketching out like this? This is kind of weird. I'm not sure why he was so dead set on shooting them with arrows, because +2 archery, that's not... Oh, Mulips. Well, that was some good luck he slaughtered that thing. So he's going heavy protection. This is another thing that I've seen Clouded like to do a lot. I usually err on the side of evasion, whereas it looks like with this build he's realized, you know what, my dexterity is bad. I'm not going to be able to build up my evasion to the point that I want, so I'm gonna go for all the highest protection equipment I can find. Because he had a pair of boots that was like 1D. Oh, that's wicked. If that's what he's really doing. Oh, he's not taking it though. Interesting. I wonder why not. Maybe he'll. I mean, I can see I wouldn't have taken it because it reduces your evasion a lot, and it only gives you a bit. I mean, it gives you a lot more protection, but it's interesting. I'm surprised he didn't even just pick it up, and he's finding so many forges. Man, this would have been a great forging character. The +3 forge gloves. Oh, that's a lot of little critters. I like this depth because it feels like you're playing an exterminator. Yeah, okay, good. He switched to the axe because again, the spiders aren't that hard to hit, and if you can give them a few good licks, they'll get out of your face. Another thing to notice is that the human, also the dwarf characters, they get dark bread as food instead of lembas, and it's about the same nourishment, like because you get 5 pieces of bread instead of 3 pieces of lembas, but the elf bread will restore a point of grace if it gets drained, which especially for smithing builds is great because a lot of the early equipment you'd want to make will drain a point of grace, like Helms of Brilliance or anything like that. But so far he's doing really well. I mean, I usually lose a lot of my Edains in the first, I don't know, like 100 feet, 150 feet. What's going on here? Is he chilling? Or did we stop playing? Well, he got splashed with acid, but he didn't lose anything, so that's good. Oh, lucky. So this is why I don't take keen senses, Clouded, if you're listening. I'm sure it helps you. I mean, especially with the Soroko, but you see that there's no way he could have known. I guess if he opened the door vertically, he would have seen it with keen senses, but he went in diagonally. So for keen senses to really work, you basically have to walk using the north, south, east, west, and never walk diagonally in situations like that to be given advance notice. But he managed to resist, even though I think his will. Oh, I guess he's wearing that Helmet of Defiance. So he's got some more archers haunting him. His protection's high enough now that I don't really think this is really going to matter. The only... I mean, Easterling archers will probably give him a run for his money right now, but they won't show up for a while. Oh, these frickin' wolves. Wolves are actually really nasty for these characters because they just peck away at you. Not bad. There's a whole lot of green worms. I don't think I've ever seen this many green worms in a single game before. This is a lot. See, you get worn down so fast. So that's a neat trick what he did there. He walked out the pathway of the door so that the Pacquiao would say, okay, stop bunching up near this door and go in and find him. And then when they got close to the exit, he jumped in and then they engaged him. So it lets you fight them one-on-one. So these little tricks, these are things that if you don't know them, you will generally get hurt more in fights, which is why it makes it a lot easier to play the Nolder in the first few times you play, or maybe the first few 100 times you play, because they generally have higher constitution, they kill faster, that kind of stuff. So that it sort of helps you compensate for the learning curve of how at least the enemies try to screw with you. And this archer trick, I mean, I can't explain how much my survivability increased once I figured out that you could do that. I used to chase them all over the level. They'd shoot me 100 million times. But once somebody explained it to me, things got a lot better. Is he actually... I think he switched helmets. I'm not sure that he's still wearing that Defiance helmet. But I'm not sure what he got that he figured was better. It's kind of a bummer not to be able to actually inspect the inventory and stuff, but the next time he goes into his equipment or something, I'll hit pause and see what he's got. I'm not sure why he rested there. Warhammers. Warhammers are really good if you can get one with an extra damage side or so. I think that's a thief because he already killed Gorgol. So you'll see he's backing up, not because he's scared, but because they'd steal your shit. See, he stole his helmet, and I think he wanted to make sure that the thing wouldn't get hit once, freak out, and then run up the stairs. That's a red centipede. It's more like a violet centipede in this color scheme here. So again, it looks like he's... Actually, it looks like he's thinking about what to do next, but if it was me, yeah, I would just crank melee like what he did. Whenever I see room structures like this, I get nervous, because sometimes they use out-of-depth monsters in these donut vaults. Not bad. It's unfortunate that axe wasn't of Gondolin, because that would be a huge help right now. The thing with wolves and spiders is that, you know, it's great to have an axe, or, sorry, any weapon like Doriath that will help kill them. But they're both reasonably easy to flee from until you have to deal with wargs, because wargs are actually pretty smart. But orcs and trolls even, which Gondolin helps kill, they'll follow you forever, basically, unless you have a stealthier character. And that can be problematic, so it's good to be able to kill them fast. Let's see what he's got. So I hate this part of the game where you basically turn into an apothecary. So we know that one is Orcish Liqueur, but everything else is more or less up for grabs. Herbs are sort of dangerous to eat, identify, because they'll drain your will or they'll drain your con or your strength. Is that true? Yeah. Which in the early game is really nasty. Strength not so bad, but certainly con is something, because you've probably already been drained by a purple mold at least once, right? And then potions can drain dexterity or grace. One's called disconnection, the other one's called awkwardness. And both of those are, I mean, dex definitely is bad for this character to lose. But he's got this lantern, which I assume he's using a torch right now, and he's saving this for when he needs more light, which I often do too. He's not wearing a studded leather. I think he found one of protection, so he can probably just ditch this. I don't know what helmet he's wearing instead. He's holding onto the boots, I think. Who knows why. Maybe he just forgot he had it, or he's playing optimally in the sense that, you know, if I don't absolutely need to get rid of things, I won't do it yet, because I may need them if my greaves get damaged or something, you know. All these acid worms, that's a good idea. So I really wish I could see what he's wearing on this character, but we'll figure it out eventually. And this, I think I mentioned that trick in an earlier screencast. I said, you know, I saw Cloud do this on one of his casts, where he goes through all his equipment and he says, hey, I remember I found this at this depth, because you sort of get used to finding things at their native depths, or, you know, like, I know that usually the first potions I find are either slow or slow poison. So if you remember you found it at 50 feet, you know it's probably one of those two, even if you haven't tried it yet. A lot of times you're totally wrong, especially with stabs, can be kind of tricky, but it's at least something helpful. Oh, those centipedes shimmer. I didn't know they did that. That's pretty cool. I kind of think that those centipedes should be changed to serpents, because they're sort of, like, if you look at how serpents work, you fight breathy serpents, small ones, you know, around 600 feet, and they breathe fire, they breathe ice or whatever, but they have high protection and they move erratically. And then you fight the bigger ones that move erratically and have high protection, the big S's. But these centipedes are like baby S's, where they don't breathe, but they move erratically and they have high protection. So it'd be neat to kind of... A centipede is kind of a ridiculous monster. Just in terms of flavor, if you could make it like a snake or something, I don't know. A gem snake. That sounds kind of lame too, though, so who knows. So yeah, if you can dispose of these things with arrows, it's always super helpful. Even though he has +2 to archery, they get an evasion penalty of half, which, I mean, if you look at the difference between the two, it's often better just to shoot than it is even to throw. So here they come. He's standing at this point so that they'll come charge him through the hallway. This is another example of gaming the pack AI to do what you want it to do. Ooh, a special bastard sword. I think he may know what it is already, but... And actually, power in combination with... Oh, that's awesome. Pause. Go back. Let's see what he's wearing. Oh, he found a 1d3 helm. Okay, that explains why he's not wearing the Defiance helm. He's still using a torch. He's got this bastard sword that's pretty damn heavy, actually. But it doesn't really matter. When you have power, you don't expect to get a lot of criticals anyway, so the weapon weight, keeping it low, isn't so important anymore. And when you have power and high strength, a bastard sword in one hand is freaking awesome. So right now he's hitting 3d9. That's crazy. Considering he's wearing a shield or no? No. Oh, okay. Then that's more normal. Cool, okay, let's see where it goes from here. So I think he was inscribing the sword because he figured out it's Gondolin, which is super helpful at this point. So this is good because now he has a slaying weapon of each type. He can kill wolves and spiders, or he can kill orcs and trolls. And those are really the only things you find at this depth where slayings will help you. The Nargothron's weapons kill Roko and dragons, which he's not going to meet for a long time. And which you don't normally find at this depth anyways. And then there's also Final Rest, which kills undead, but honestly, I've never really felt the need to have weapons that slay undead, because they're pretty, most of them are, there aren't really any scary ones unless you have a very specific build that is weak to, for example, being paralyzed or something. Alright, so he's kind of at his stride. This is a pretty good character build for this depth, for an Edain especially. I think he's pretty well equipped to fight Easterling archers and, Easterling warriors, which are going to show up fairly soon. Man, he's finding all kinds of special stuff. This is wicked. Round shield of protection. This is a shield of deflection, a kite shield. That's awesome. And it's even great just to find all these things because of the experience you get. He doesn't have Lore Master yet. I don't know if he's going to try to get it. Oh, and there are the Easterling warriors. It's like I'm prophetic. Oh, bummer. He was trying to escape through that tunnel, but there's rubble. Although he has a shovel now, I think, so. But these things can be tough, because you need high damage output to kill them. But they hit reasonably hard, so I think is he going to go for charge? Did he do it? I don't think he did it. It's hard to tell. No, I think he just went for the melee point. Now he's getting surrounded. See this? Why did that orc flee? Did he hit it? Or did it just get scared because he's using this Gondolin weapon? Well, either way, they went down. First staff of the game. I think he's trying to figure out... What's his key map? Oh, he's making a rest. I don't know what that key map just did, actually. Yeah, I think he was trying to figure out whether he wanted to take that shield or not. Great, we get some more experience for identifying the Gondolin weapon. Clouded, would you wear a freaking torch, please? There we go. Yeah, I would have done that at this point too. Like, how hard do they hit? Really? Like, what is going on here? So he had to flee because they were just crushing him. Another special armor. This is... interesting. It's not going to be one that he can just wear ID unless it's stealth. So, so this is the part in the game, I do this often too, where you go hide in the corner, and you just basically drink all your potions, and you hope that you get them in the right order. That, although this is bad, that potion of strong poison, he has very little HP. That could have gone a lot worse than it did, actually. Purple Rage. So that studded leather, did he just pick it up? Yeah. I think there's like a couple of cursed versions that don't, they're not sticky cursed. But it could be, I don't remember what the special armors are that are soft armor. I'm pretty sure you can get one of Venom's End, but maybe not. I thought maybe you need a metal one for that. Yeah, and I think he's scared to eat the herbs because they have, if he was to get con drained right now, that would really suck. So this is, it's spring cleaning, I guess. So now he has a ton of experience from using all that stuff and still just concentrating on melee and evasion, which is smart because without all these bonuses from extra dexterity, you really need to focus on those, which means you have fewer abilities to help you like trick your way through the later game, but you really need to do it, otherwise you're gonna die before you get there. I can't usually make them act though. That's a pretty neat trick. I think Thieves. Oh, he's got a longsword of Gondolin now too. That's wicked. Although I don't know, the Bastard Sword is pretty dang good. But yeah, see, he's tricking them to come down. That's awesome. So I guess if you stand at the mouth of the other end of the corridor, they'll charge in. Because I guess to the AI that counts as having left the corridor, so they'll come out. That's neat. Oh man, I gotta try that trick. He found a chest and he typed 20 times, try to pick the lock, instead of just sitting there spamming the key. Although I would have picked it up and taken it with me. If you have the strength, you might as well do it. Ring of Perception, every point helps with a kind of dumb character like this. That's a Shadow Mole that he's skirting around. Ouch. Oh, that's a lot of works. Oh, luckily the light from his weapon sleigh kicked in and they ran away. Otherwise, that would have been a bit tricky to maneuver. That's a defender sword. It's like he's finding every fine type of weapon in like the first 400 feet. Yeah, I mean, having another evasion point is great, especially if you take parry, because that'll give you +4 evasion, but I mean, the curved sword as a weapon is not great, and he's got so many good things now that it's not worth it. Yeah, he's standing up a lot better against these warriors this time. Sometimes the warriors bug out like that when they're fleeing. Actually, every monster does that eventually, but... Oh, archers, how I hate you. And this is actually a bad scenario, because being shot at it in the dark, your evasion gets reduced if you can't see the monster shooting at you, and you can die really fast like that. More orcs, and this is, again, playing these Edain characters. Is that a captain, or is that, like, a unique? No, that's not Othrod, that's just a captain. Although, isn't that thing mega at a depth? I thought orc captains were like 500 feet. I mean, if this was me at this point and I'd found a flask of oil, I would just switch to the lantern. But I guess with keen senses, it's not as important. But what I was saying is, again, as Look at this. This guy's like the master of AI. He knows exactly how orcs think. He's the orc whisperer. Yeah, with these characters, because again, you start with low dex, he's wearing all this armor, and you can't really spend any points, like fun points, to invest in stealth. I think his stealth right now is like -1 or something, which means he's gonna wake up the whole neighborhood. That's a lot of archers to be shooting at you. Oh. I think he's trying to find a door he can close so he can check if it's Staff of Freedom. Oh. Oh, I love these little weird room vaults because you can pin monsters against the wall and just splat them. It's so it's like whack-a-mole. Well, it can be kind of dangerous to smash the walls like that though, because other monsters, if their door's not locked, they can wake up and come after you too. I usually like to go and open all the doors that are unlocked first, and then open the locked ones. Yeah, he's got a lot of good stuff on this character. This is awesome. That's just a puny skeleton. I like to, when they're orc skeletons, I like to actually get the orc skeletons and throw them at orcs just to demoralize them, but oh, he's not taking his throwing axe. Interesting. I bet those barrel rings are hunger. Ooh, an archer. That's a great situation to meet an East Finland archer in. I wonder why he doesn't take the throwing axe. I guess if you don't know that you're going to get a whole bunch more, and he's got a whole bunch of spears. But I would probably try to ditch something and take it. Then again, I really like throwing axe. Oh, he's going through the, I'm guessing that inscription means it's not healing, but I found it at 350. Oh, I think it's... no, never mind. False alarm. Yeah, I'd be trying to assess at this point. Like, this level's reasonably big. I'd probably want to... I mean, with the Edain, it kind of it behooves you to play a bit slower, because that's either free action or treacherous paths. Did you just put them on? That's pretty gutsy. No, they're still in the inventory. Okay, wait, what just happened there? Sorry, I'm gonna go back a bit. You drop a pair of greaves. I wonder... He's probably worried, so those greaves could be free action for sure. Because I don't think he's ID'd free action yet. But the other thing they could be is treacherous paths. And I guess he's thinking the trade-off's not worth it, because treacherous paths, even if you carry them and don't wear them, they attract more dangerous monsters to your level. And that is not something you want to deal with a character you already feel is fragile. So I'm gonna... now that I'm not playing, I have no idea how long I've been casting this game, so I'm gonna... But 400 feet, we usually don't get that far in our first cast. So I'm gonna pause it here. Hopefully this is interesting to you guys. It's fun for me, that's for sure, because I like watching better players than me play. And it's also neat to see people's tricks and stuff. I especially want to see how he deals with some of the deeper monsters. If we get there, I don't really know. I have no idea when this character dies. I think I saw the character dump at some point. Like, it may even be a winner, I don't know. But I hope he makes it to the deeper depths so we can see some of his coping mechanisms, because this character's going to be tough. Like, usually this is around the point with an elf where I'm going for Lore Master, and I don't even know if he's going to do that, because, first of all, he's pretty good, I think, at the identification game, but second of all, you kind of need to focus as much as you can buffing up these skills in the early game. So, but I guess we'll find out next time. So I'm going to stop here, and we'll continue on with this Edain Hador build in the next video. Bye for now.